Okay. Um, Part number 3, or whatever it's gonna be, because camera keeps failing. Where was I? So I've, like I said, in my night vision test, on that part, you could see. Stop it. Um, you could see very well. It definitely worked, and it doesn't. As I've said, I have tested this outside, the best way I could, at a park late at night when no one was there and all the lights were off. It doesn't have the best of throw. Even especially when there's a good amount of ambient light. The same can be said for the white light. I don't know what is specifically is supposed to be the candela on this kind of thing, but really, I definitely wouldn't trust this out past 50. Sorry, I don't have footage of what that looks like, but I'd say 50 would probably be your max for the white. It is a 500 lumen, and you could see it had a really, really nice wide throw. Um, so, I mean, we can just pop this thing in the high mode real quick and show that throw. Nice from edge to the edge of the window right there. That's roughly a me, which I'd say is about 6 feet or 2 yards. So a good 2 yard throw at 2 yards. So that's gonna kind of cone out, and it's not gonna be much past 50. And you don't have much of a hot spot either, so there's not going to be much centralized area for there to throw to distance. So there's not much candela behind this thing, and really I don't believe it's supposed to. It's here because I mean, you can very easily use a laser aiming module, a good one, out to some distance, and if you have your zeros right. However, in a civilian standpoint, I don't think I'd ever want to try and take a shot with a laser past 50, because I wouldn't be able to positively identify any target. Um, and really, I'm a civilian. Why would I be trying to shoot someone 50 yards away? Now, sorry, I'm trying to wipe my nose here because it's running again. Now, for military law enforcement type thing, they definitely have more scenarios that could possibly put them in where they need that proper throw, positively identify up to however far they can be. I mean, even law enforcement, I know they can probably I've seen videos of officers needing to take a shot. Um, I believe one was at 100, just down a road, because the bad guy was down the road, and the officer had his chance, and he took it, and he put the bad guy down. So there's, and in military use, definitely plenty of chances. Up to 300 is their standard. I believe their common combat distance. Um, and then working indoors, around cities is also a thing. But this is more of that urban indoors. You've someone's broken into the apartment, or this kind of close distance, 2 yards to 7 yards. Civilian usage, no, definitely never past 15. I don't think you could legally justify taking a shot past 15 unless you can truly back up the situation, civilian wise. I'm not going to get into too much of that. Let me just get off that now. But for civilian use, for what I need, which is something for the short guy right here, um, it serves its purpose astoundingly well. I get a white light that I can use, because, I mean, honestly, I'm not going to throw my nods on and inspect a bump in the night. I'm just going to grab that rifle, using proper ammo. I have, the hollow points, and hopefully the tumble upon impacts to prevent going through. My apartment is it's more sturdier than most of the other places. Um, So I'm not afraid of too much over penetration. Should I need to use that? Now, of course, first off, I only go to that if I don't have this next to me for some reason. And then I will be comparing all these to the white light in a bit, but I just want to get off the subject of this does its job very well. But you can see the downfalls in it. Again, the comparisons will come in a bit, because it doesn't do anything astoundingly well, honestly. It is reliable, like I said, like I showed earlier. Titanium housing. I'm not afraid of this thing cracking up and breaking. I'm not afraid of the mount shearing off because it's milled into the system. And then I have a gripe though on this lever here. So, but we'll get to that. So, built well, sturdy, and it does what it needs to do. And that's the quick breakdown. But let's talk about the other things. I don't really have anything to compare it to IR-wise. I do have a WML IR, but it's not really kind of fair because that doesn't focus, and that's more of just it's just not really the same because this beam focuses. It's so much clearer, compact, and it truly throws, whereas the WML just kind of gives you a big fat spill. Think of it as a more powerful, just little tiny spotlight that you get built into a PVS 14 or any MVG. I think they all come with some sort of built-in IR light just for those really, really dark moments and you need to look around. So it's not really the best to compare it to that because it just tosses a bunch of light everywhere. It doesn't really focus that beam. It doesn't really adjust, and it's definitely not as powerful as this, the WML IR whatever laser thing, light thing. But sorry, another white runny nose. It's getting on me. So I don't have anything physically to compare the IR stuff to on me. I can really just show you what I have here, and hopefully you can make those comparisons to yourself from looking at Hoplofel, Brass Facts, all those other guys who have a lot more skin in this game and a lot more time behind a bunch of different systems, but they don't have this system. But I don't think this is very far off from the LS300 series, power-wise. But I would want to say that it is slightly more powerful because it's supposed to be. However, I can't back any of that info up. I just want to say it to me feels and seems more powerful. That could also be me just not having had anything else physically with myself to compare it to. So showing this bad boy off is the best I can do, and tell you all those other places there you could possibly make those comparisons yourself. So all right, we've gone down to the quick nitty-gritty of, yes, it does what it needs to. Now let's talk about some gripes and things to think about before getting into this, because I got into it and it is exactly what I needed as a civilian, and what I expected to be. But there's a couple of things definitely to show off because not everyone knows about, and just get you the full breakdown now. So we showed off these. I'm going to go ahead and close the caps. These are nice caps. I like the caps. They just slide over the sides, and they work very well. Say if I want to, for some reason, accidentally have it in paired high mode, and I'm just trying to use the laser for either zeroing or just daytime laser practice, because you can use a laser practice. Your passive aiming at any point without your NVGs on. So as long as you clip it down all the way because it can kind of flip up like that. As long as you squish it down around the rim and it kind of does conform to the rim of the housing there, it blocks off all the light. You can't tell that this is on. For example, let me see. It is now on the high mode, paired. So making sure that they are all flush with the housing. And I'm clicking the button. There, it's now constantly on, so I can go ahead and do this and show off. You see, there is no spill or passage of light through these covers, so they work very, very well. Let me double check that it is off. Yeah, okay, it's off. But then again, like I said, if they're not perfectly in place, you'll get something like that, or a little. Okay, no, that closed it up. So, yeah, so you can have some spill through if you don't properly squish down around the rims. But when you do, you get nothing. Again, it's on. Oh, constant on. See, it's on still. Click it back off. It's off again. So these caps work very well. I like them. They are good. Working back. Adjustments, very nice. Nice, clicky, robust, flushed in there. Work very well. Definitely, I mean, no issue with these. I'll be honest, the aims, one of my adjustments is very, very squishy. I guess I just got a bad one, but it's not that bad, so I'm not going to complain about it to them. I'll just wait for it to either break or become a serious issue, and then I might send it back to them. But very good, very good. No issue. The mount here, which I don't have it on me. Where is it? Where did I put it? All right, stand by half a sec. Okay, and we're back. I got the case. This is the case that it comes in. A really nice, thick, fat pelican-looking case with all the foam and proper cuts for everything. Batteries. One of these sleeves is actually for a big plastic tubing that goes inside here because this is supposed to be compatible with 18650s. However, not with any of the ones I've purchased so far. We'll get to that in a bit. So we were on talking about the mount here because we're going from front to back, tip to butt, if you will. So there it is. I have my Holosun 503? Yeah, 503 CU. So, and this is the mount it comes on. It is a T2 style, so I could have this 503 or this Romeo 5, which is a T2 footprint as well. However, the battery is right here, so it would sit really, really tall. And I love my my Romeo 5. It's been on my AR since I've had it for the past 2 years. But that's we're not here to talk about red dots. We're here to just talk about the this laser. So this is a T2 style, so I could put it on there. However, it would sit much taller because it's it has a battering housing underneath, and it would sit pretty high. But with standard, something like this bad boy, where there is a battery housing underneath, although it takes a 2032, so it sits very low still. You get a really nice low flush kind of mount, if you will, and it really just sits a little high of lower third co-witness, just slightly over lower third. And I can tell that because I can be looking through this setup, and I've messed with it. I've attached this as it is right now to the rear of my little crinky over here. I'd put it here. Let's bring you over. And I can kind of do that right now because this is a QD. So we'll pop that open. Put this here. Nope, that didn't latch. There it is. That's it. Okay, I can't get it to latch because this isn't exactly mil-spec kind of pick. So, but it's on there. It's flush, and you can see right now how high it does sit. So lower 1/3 is just underneath the center line as of we are here, because the aims that is in front is 1/3, and this sits just over it by about a half an inch, I'd say. So, and 1/3, if I remember correctly, is I want to say 1.5 inch or 1.3 or something. So this is sitting about 2 inches high on center line axis, I'd say. I haven't measured it out per se. That's just me spitballing. So I give you a good idea. You're going to sit really tall. So, I mean, if you had this theoretically on an NP5 mount, and you can like on the receiver mount, and you have this in front of you, much like how this crank is set up, but you don't, I'm not attaching anything that needs to hold 0 on the dust cover, because that's not a good, it's not a good thing for AK, unless you get the special mounts. You would be sitting really tall, but tall mounts these days are much more popular, like the I don't know, the Unity fast mounts, the Chimera thing. It's got that weird whatever it's called that Mike Glover runs. So tall mounts are in. So you'd be in with the cool kids running something like this, and you could, because we're about to get into it, run a switch forward, tape it up front on your guard. Say we put this bad boy back here, put the dot on top, and then you could run a switch forward, putting it up here, and with your hand to access and use. So it's a system that I have tried. I haven't done shooting because I have attached a switch, and like I said, we're going to get into switches in a bit. And ran it like that, of course, not seriously, because I know, oops, stop dropping stuff. I know that won't hold 0, so it's not anything that could be run for serious use on this specific firearm. However, if you had an AK style firearm with the right dust cover or system, you could run something back here, run it on this mount, and then push your button forward. However, thinking of just how this thing throws both the white light and the IR on the full open setting, you'd get a lot of kind of splash over your own guard and barrel. So it's not the most optimal. So now, say you just need to run something for your laser. You just need to run your laser somewhere, and then you can put, say, something that doesn't need to hold 0, like the WML or a Surefire Vampire series light. Then that's a system that could theoretically work pretty well, but I've not actually tried that. It's just an idea and a thought, because you could run this as your primary optic mount at the rear somewhere, and then push your button forward, because you can put buttons on this thing, and we'll get into that now. So buttons are doable, and a lot of people think they aren't. I've only got one button to really make it work, and it's probably the fattest, I think, at least I've seen, of all the buttons or the switches you could attach. So you do have a switch attachment. I think it's called the crane switch, just the at-PL style switch down here underneath your adjustment and your battery cap. And then up top, that's actually just a charging port, so there's nothing in there other than some prongs for the charging cable, so you could charge your 18650, but we'll get to that after. We'll get into lasers first, because that's more important. So this is the laser that comes with it, a nice skinny straight in plug. And in my quick video, I did go over really quickly that this thing sucks, because it is just the squishiest thing, the squishiest and the most inconsistent kind of button feel ever, just ever. So we'll go ahead and just put it in. I don't want to run battery too much. I still haven't ran through batteries yet. We'll talk about the battery life so far, at least, once we get into the 18650 part. But let me see. Don't, right? Oh, the covers are on. You kind of need to take the covers off to see the laser, right? So it is on just the low dot mode right now, and you can see it's working. So the switch works. Double tap, stays on, and it is a functioning piece. But unless you want to get stuck with this really, if you can hear that, what is that? It's just a plastic deconforming, and the mount here is just so stiff. It's really hard to get this thing onto your pick, and then taking it off is just as hard. I marred up the bottom because I had to get a screwdriver underneath it just to pry it off the mount. So it's not the most ideal thing, but you get something to run with it. Should you, like we talked about earlier, run this somewhere far to the rear, or on an AR style setup, run it up front and push this back. However, I can't kind of do that with this guard or this rail. I love this rail. We'll talk about how I've mounted it in my application so far near the end. But just getting into the unit itself. So the switch there, it does work. It's a functioning piece, and you get one that works with it flawlessly. I mean, aside from the button itself being really sucky. But then I did, of course, have to get into this stuff for my AR setup, because I got this solely to run as both white and IR for my, well, this is the gun I see myself mostly using at night because it has the aims on it, and it's short, and I mean, the aims are just a wonderful night vision optic, in my opinion. So I see this as more of my night fighting gun than the AR, but I have a setup for this as well. Like I said, we'll get into that at the end. So I also have this Surefire DT, whatever their names and stuff, just the 7-inch wire dual plug. But I don't have any Surefire compatible white lights. So I mean, I have something coming. I have this ProTac 2, and Arasaka Defense makes conversion kits, so I can attach one of these. And that's coming in. It's not in yet. So eventually this will work as intended with both. But until then, I have it working for the laser. And I've seen a lot of different places. I mean, primarily Optics Planet it's where I purchased this. And there's not many other places I've heard much about, but constantly saying you can't run Surefire switches or at-peel switches because of the position of the plug socket. Now, it is difficult. It is very, very tight. And seriously, it is, to get this thing out every time feels like I'm about to maybe break the switch. However, it hasn't breaking yet, so we're just going to I'm just going to keep doing it and hopefully think it's maybe a wear-in thing, but I will say it is a very tight fit. But once you do get it in, we'll go ahead and let me cover up the switch so I don't break it doing this one-handed. So down, taking our crane, and I'm going to do this right-handed because I'm a righty. Get that in there, and click. More of a squish in, doesn't really click in, and uncover the lens again, and click. It works. It does work with Surefire switches. Now, I don't know, and I haven't tried, because I already spent all the money on this one, but I think the Surefire switch, at least from what I can compare, is the thickest of all the switches. And then doing this one-handed, see how much force I have to put in. Oh, that's so hard. Okay, half second, and out. There we go. Yeah, that's a battle to get out. Because Surefire has this ring around the side. I don't know why. I mean, I guess just to add robustness to the system, but that is the part that adds the most friction and the issue to getting it out. And I mean, in is easier now, out is still the hardest part, because I can definitely feel it's worn down this ring a little more. But the other switches I've seen, such as the mod light buttons, those switches seem a little more thinner around this area. At least they're concave in the center. If if you know what I'm talking about. So maybe those will run a little smoother, but it is possible with this Surefire switch here, this dual plug. But like I said, it is a battle to get back out. So if it snaps on you, sorry, mine didn't. I mean, Surefire is supposed to be strong, so hopefully it don't. I will just fair warning, it works. It is very stiff. And there's another issue, which let me go ahead and plug it back in. Don't know why I unplugged it in the first place, but get that. There's a plug. Get that out of the way. And in is easy. In is easy. Out is the hard part. Definitely requires two hands and a little bit of elbow grease. But the issue that does occur the most is that your adjustment gets real hard here. Your focus adjustment for the IR designator does become very stiff because you are physically rubbing against that switch. So for me, I'm okay with it, honestly. It is doable. I am currently turning it. However, I basically only have 3/4 of that knob to work with now, so it's much more difficult. But it is possible. But to adjust from full to open to closed, oh yeah, it's starting to hurt the fingers doing that over and over again. It is a little more difficult, so that is a downside. Should you need to go from indoors to outdoors or make that switch on the fly, it's not as easy anymore. Prior, without the switch in here, was just these little protecting bands in your way. It's easy. It's not hard at all, but now it definitely does become a bit more of a issue. So that's a pitfall. If you're going to run a switch, you're going to have a problem with both just getting it in and out of the socket and then your adjustment here. So maybe you could possibly file down all this extra material. I mean, I would say all that material there is hopefully just reinforcement, so it probably won't hurt it should it go away. But hopefully also over time running this metal should wear down this plastic, and it would get easier over time. Like I said, that ring feature in the center of this switch is starting to wear down, and it does feel like it's gotten easier to adjust, but it's still currently not the easiest thing. So that is a gripe to think about with this unit. Drop the phone down. And then take out the switch. All right, and set that aside. Now, I do have a system to use this on my AR currently that doesn't require a switch at all. Should I have it correctly? Should I have it done correctly? Now, let me see. Before we get into that, is there anything else? The battery housing. I mean, it's a battery cap. It's big, robust metal circle. Got to put you down again so I can unscrew this. It is in there real tight right now because putting the batteries in, it does take. It's not just hassle free because these are under some serious pressure. When going in, you can just taking the battery cap off right now. You can see how much the batteries stick out, and you have to squish them in because there's a spring on this side. There's a spring on the other side. And I don't think, no, the batteries have to go in this way. I was gonna say maybe that was to allow, as long as they're facing the same way, they can always work. But it does have that little etching in. So I don't know how the other systems are, if they're just drop in, squish in, but that does bode well for you're not going to have flicker issues due to batteries not making proper contact, because you are physically squishing those things in between two springs, so that's not going to be a problem. I know that's an issue with white lights. I don't know if that's an issue with any other laser modules, but it's definitely won't be an issue or problem to think about here. So I think that breaks down the system itself. There's not much more I can think about. So real quick, we can move on for the final pieces, my uses. Now, like I said, I run this solely most of the time on my crank here as my proprietary white and IR, because this is my night gun. I see this is my night gun personally, just as it is. But to use an AR, the more common of weapons among Americans, this is my Smith & Wesson. We are clear, so I'm just going to drop the bolt because I know it will eventually with my bad lever there. Safety is on. So this is the Strike Industries, I don't even remember what the rail's called. Whatever, cage code, nope, that's not it. I just remember I purchased this thing quite a long ago because this AR originally was an A2, just regular M4 style, so it had an A2 front sight and gas block, and I free floated it myself, proud of that. So I put this Strike Industries rails on it. However, you can see I don't have full pick over the top because this is a very wide rail, because at some point I hope to get something like an Amtac over the barrel suppressor some point in my life. Definitely not now that I have night vision, but I don't have full Picatinny over the top, so I don't really have the most in rail to use, at least rail that I'd want to attach my laser aiming module, which needs to in some form, needs to hold 0. So what I've done is, normally I would have run my white light, my ProTac, here on the side, and then I have a cloud defensive and standard switch. So it's not the grabby parts, it's just the insert, but there's the switch that comes with your ProTac rail mount system, and that would run up here, and it would just barely take up all of my rail space, every single bit, and that's with running my front sight in reverse and pushed out at the end of the rail. So it really just shows you I don't got much work in here for rail space, and I'm not gonna purchase another rail because I like this one already, and I don't want to have to try and take off my barrel nut again. I did it without a vise. So what I have learned is that I can take up that same amount of rail space on this nicely 0 holding rail and put my laser aiming module there, and then I just run the button. Just run the button for everything, and then again, this would be most proprietary or this would be solely for both all white and all IR. However, I'm mulling it over. I might just get a Surefire, one of their Pro Series that has the swivel, and I can run the Surefire here, and then just real nicely click forward. I dislike how this sits, the ProTac. In line with the barrel. I need it to be a little higher, and I don't really have any kind of, I could just get a mount maybe to put it up there, but I also don't like the ProTac switch here. I don't like how it's in line. I want it to be up here somewhere underneath the lens, not right there. So, but I do like it does have an aesthetic to it. I'll be honest. I'm trying to show the whole thing. Has an aesthetic. Running that up there, just the way it looks, the lines of the thing, if you will. But that's currently how I'm running this, and what I'm running it for is, again, just because it's cool, because I wanted night vision. I'm a civilian, and I was able to afford it, so I got into this stuff, and this is perfect for what I need it for. It's not the most tested and widely used spec ops thing, but it's exactly what I needed, and it works very well for that. Now, it's of course also not in the price point for most people to easily get into, specifically this unit. So if I'm going to say, if you're going to purchase something for serious combat use and you need a laser aiming module, honestly, get a D-ball or get a PEC 15. Because if you're using it for serious use, hopefully you have someone footing the bill for that serious use stuff. But as a civilian who just needed something that gave me all the options, that was effective, trustworthy, and has all the options to give me all the different types that has all the options. It gives me anything I could use, I could need this for, in one package. And now it's not the best at anything, but it's not the worst at anything. There's no major drawbacks, in my opinion, but also no major upsides to the other systems that do have more powerful IR illuminators. Now, the lasers, they're all going to be across the board very powerful. I've definitely shot this laser out to easily 100, maybe 150, still easily visible and usable. But like I said, civilian-wise, I'm not using this at any sort of distance that far. If I'm going to go that far under night vision, I'm probably going to passive aim for it. I'm not going to use a laser just because I don't really zero this to be the most. I don't zero the laser to be a laser beam and make my bullets go exactly there. I zero this roughly so that way in a CQB scenario, I can just point the laser and I know I should roughly hit within, I'd say, at a CQB scenario, maybe a 6 MOA. Now my AR here is probably only a 3.0 MOA gun, and then the AK there is probably about the same, a 3. Or well, honestly, I'm a 3 MOA guy. Okay, I'm not gonna rag on the guns. The guns are definitely probably easily just about a 1 or a to 2.5, 1.5, easy. I'd say I'm the guy. I'm the reason the guns don't shoot that well. Okay, I'll just be honest. I'm not gonna rag on the guns. The guns can easily laser beam all I want. But for a CQB purpose, what I need it for, I just need to be able to point that laser at something. Okay, that laser's on the target. I pull the trigger. That target has now been pierced, and that's what I see this as. Not shooting up to 100 yards. Under night vision, because I don't know. I guess that's not something I see myself doing. Now, could this be capable of it? Yes, if you properly zeroed, you know how to properly use this thing at that distance very easily. Now, could you properly PID a target, positively identify at that distance with this unit? Definitely not at 150. I would say it definitely won't. You won't be able to PID up to 150. Maybe 50 at very dark conditions easily. With ambient light around, not so much. Like I said, this thing doesn't pass through photonic barriers the best, but it does in some form. But I mean, without like the proper like lumen reading equipment, I can't tell you exactly at what point you'll lose it. I'm saying if you're in the city with plenty of streetlights around, you're probably not going to get past that photonic barrier. If you're maybe on the side of the road and there's woods on one side and there's only a few street lamps, just a little bit of illumination, but not too much, you should be fine passing through that. But you know, serious lights everywhere, big mall style parking garage, you're probably not going to illuminate the dark corners that much with this thing. But I've never fully tested it to that current situation because I don't really I don't have parking lots I can go to with and point this laser at with my nods on, if you know what I mean. So all I can do is show you the features, what are its features, and what I use it for, and how it just has held up so far. I don't regret getting this thing. This thing is sick, and as a civilian, I think this is great for me. And the best I can, I've given you, I think, all the info on this thing after some usage, because there's not many videos on this thing going in. I don't think in all the depths I think that I have. I hope I haven't missed anything. If I have, just send me a comment. It's real easy. I'll answer it probably, or I'll try to. But I think that brings us to an end. I think I'll go ahead and use the last few minutes here, because this video is already incredibly long, much longer than it needs to be. So we're going to really quick just show off the differences in beams, just to give you another idea of what the white light itself looks like. We're just going to do the high mode compared, because that's kind of what really matters. So high mode. Okay, take a good look, snapshot at that. And then we're going to compare it to a ProTac, which this thing's putting out 625 lumens. I don't know the candela on it though, sorry. You can see the white hot spot difference, and then the spill a little short, but a much brighter hot spot there. And then our EDC L2T Surefire, this puts out 1200 lumens. And it really, honestly, it never feels like that, but the candela on this thing is also 36,000, so it really throws this light out. And that it has a 5 lumen mode, which we don't care about that. But that is 1200 lumens, and that definitely kind of does. I mean, once it's actually thrown out at your face, you definitely feel that 1200 lumen. And then we've got the regular old Surefire X300U, so 1000 lumens with that. It looks like nice, bright, even, no hot spot really, and then 500 lumen high mode there. So I think that's about it for the video. I'm gonna go ahead and end it here, because it's already gone crazy long, and I really hope someone still wants to watch it, even though it's probably a bit more than it needs to be. So thank you for watching. If you have up to this point, it's been way too long. So I'm gonna go and just real quick end it here. Thank you for watching. You don't have to subscribe or do any of that stuff. I'm just putting this info out because I have this stuff, and I want to share it with as many people who are also getting into these things as possible. So again, I thank you. And if someone's looking into this stuff, is interested in this stuff, feel free to send them my way, and I'll do the best I can to help them out. So thank you. Have a wonderful day, and have a happy holidays. It's the day after Thanksgiving, so I hope you had an awesome Thanksgiving, and I hope you also have an awesome Christmas and all that stuff. Bye-bye.